What's up troops, it's me TheTacticalBrit, and something that's been heavily requested recently is a new squad guide series, and this is something I'm finally going to do. Enough of you have sort of collectively peer pressured me into doing a new guide series. They're quite difficult to do, surprisingly, because there's a lot of things you need to break down, but I've decided to break it down into a certain number of parts that I think actively cover everything you need to know in the game. Now, today's video is going to be on the fundamentals of squad, so we're going to be looking at everything from spawning in, to movement, to map positions, and everything you need to know as fundamental basics to playing squad. Other videos include things like specializations in classes, like using the scout class and heavy gunner classes and anti-tank classes, and that's a separate video. Vehicles are a separate video, squad leading is a separate video, advanced tactics / engagements are a separate video, and even combat is a separate video, so you'll be able to learn more or less every dimension of squad through this guide series. But today, like I said, we're kicking off with the basic fundamentals. If you feel like you know the fundamentals to squad already, feel free to skip this video. Of course, there will be information that might be perhaps useful to you to learn again, but of course the videos are listed on screen now, so if you want to learn classes, if you want to learn vehicles, if you want to learn building, those are videos all listed on screen now that you can totally check out in the playlist. But if you're with me here today to learn some fundamentals, this is where we're going to do it. Now, for new players, the first thing I strongly recommend for you is to go into the shooting range, which is available on the main menu, and you can just mess around in this place without any sort of serious in-game action going on, and it will let you just kind of get to grips with what exactly it is going on in squad. This is a very information-intensive game, and sometimes it can feel pretty overwhelming, which is exactly why this fundamentals video is here today. So, I'm literally going to start this from scratch. I'm going to walk this through you bit by bit, almost like I was a brand new player, and I'm going to go over everything that you see on screen. Then we're going to talk about movement, then we're going to talk about ammo boxes and stuff like that. We're just going to go over the simple fundamental principles to playing squad, even stuff like ammo indicators and communicating with your squad mates. So you're presented with this screen and you hit enter to spawn. Up in your top left, you have the team you are in. At the moment, I am an insurgent. You have your squad, and you have your role. There will be a number of squads listed here. You don't need to worry about creating one if you're a new player, but if you should so happen to create one, you will automatically become the squad lead. There is a video available on screen now if you want to learn what a squad lead is, but I think you should probably get the fundamentals nailed down first if that's what you're here for. So, just for name's sake, we're going to create a squad here, but you will be able to simply join one of many squads that will be listed, as you can tell, through here. Once you hit that up, you will be presented with the role screen, and this presents all of the roles available in-game. Everything from machine gunnings, to grenades, to anti-tanks, to scouts, to medics. There's a lot going on in squad, and that too is a separate video available in this guide list, which will hopefully magically appear on screen right now if I'm good at my job. If I suck at my job, well, that's probably something I should get better at. But hey ho, we're going to carry on with these fundamentals here. I'm going to quickly go with a basic rifleman class, just to keep this sort of fundamentals guide as fundamental as humanly possible. I don't want to confuse any of you guys with advanced stuff like a light machine gun class, because that would just be ridiculous. Now, we get this screen over here, and this screen here lists what's in your squad. As you can tell here, this symbol indicates that I am the squad leader, and the symbol to the left of that actually indicates what role I have. And that's quite useful to know. You can actually tell what I'm using, what class I'm going with, and from that you can probably adapt and choose your own classes. And this is something that's quite important, because most squads will insist on having 2 medics. If you're on a vehicular heavy map, most squads will insist on having 2 light anti-tanks as one of the 3 fire support roles available. So just knowing what other people are doing is a pretty useful thing to do. If you know that there's a medic slot available, and you should so happen to be privy with medics, then you should probably go for that. If not, just choose a basic rifleman and jump on in. Now, there are other things as well that you can learn from this screen here, alongside who's squad leader, what class everybody's using. Just basic names, knowing who everybody is, what classes they are, and where they are is something that can all be seen on this map / squad layout screen here. And then to the right here, we have the map and spawn points. So I'm going to break it down with the map first, because I feel like this is something that does surprisingly confuse people. And I don't blame you, because this kind of map isn't particularly common in all kinds of games, mostly just tactical level shooters, and there aren't really a lot of those around at the moment. So the map is broken down into grid sectors, so we have Alpha 1 here, Bravo 1, Charlie 1, Delta 1, Echo 1, Foxtrot 1, etc, etc. It's okay just to use Alpha, it's perfect perfectly fine to say A1 as well. People will totally get what you mean. Don't be too concerned about that. Now, inside this, it's broken down into keypads. So if you look at the number keypad on your keyboard, you'll be able to see exactly what I'm talking about. So this would be Alpha 1 keypad 1, Alpha 1 keypad 2, Alpha 1 keypad 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then if you scroll even further into that, there's sub-keypads. So if you want to be able to hand out real specific details as to where other people are, or where you believe enemies are, or where you believe a vehicle is, and you think you have an exact approximation of that location, you could say, I believe that this vehicle is in Alpha 1 sub-keypad 5, which would be here. So, or Alpha 1 sub-key 5. It's as simple as that. And if you believe you have some kind of visual marker that will let you make that decision and say, hey, it's roughly approximately around there, then that's very helpful information to hand out. And that's basically how the map system works. It's not overly complex. We've got, here we go, Bravo 3, Bravo 3, key 2, sub keypad, let's go 7 or 8. So this would be 8. So this would be Bravo 3, keypad 2, which is down here, sub keypad 8, which is up here. And if you get confused, just literally look at your keyboard. We can scroll over to any one here. We've got Delta 1, we can go keypad 2, which would be this one here, sub keypad 9, which would be up here. So it's as very simple as that. There's not much else to it, and it's easy to eventually get privy with this and being able to call out anybody you want at any point in time. And of course, when you're spawned in, feel free to press M to bring up your map. And if you press N, you can zoom in and out on your map automatically, and that will give you different ranges to work with rather than having to press enter and scroll in and out. So M and N will be effectively your best friends when it comes to working with your map. Next up, we have spawns, and conveniently, there is actually a breakdown of this. And as you can see here, we have a map legend, and we even have some time approximations here. So we have flags, which are of course the capture objectives, and I'm in the insurgent team right now, and we have no objectives on the map, but you can see here that this is the US deployment, and this is the militia deployment based on the flag colors that are available there. Now, alongside that, we have forward operating bases, rally points, and the main base. The main base is an instantaneous spawn. By clicking on these yellow dots, you will spawn instantly. Now, there are some caveats to this. Number one, don't spawn straight away when you start the game. Most squad leaders will have a plan in mind, or will want to drive away from the main spawn, get far enough away from the map somewhere useful close to an objective, and then place either a rally point or forward operating base to supply you with a spawn so that he doesn't have to ferry 9 people in a vehicle from the main base to the place you want to be. So listen out to your squad lead for whether or not you should be spawning in at main, and whether or not that will be useful. Another thing as well is that the main base is usually very far away from the action, so even though it is an instantaneous spawn, it may take you a hell of a long time to get to an objective. So do not resort to the main base as your primary spawn. You should always look for rally points or forward operating bases / hubs. So let's go to the rally point. The rally point is an indicator placed by your squad leader. It's literally just a bunch of bags placed out in the open that acts as a spawn point. Think a spawn beacon in Battlefield. That would be a likely comparison for this to be made. Now, you have up to 9 spawns on a rally point once it's placed by a squad lead, and this can be recharged and placed again after a certain amount of time has elapsed between the first one being placed. It has to be a certain distance away from enemies, so you'll know that your squad lead has placed it probably around 50 meters away from any enemy contacts. However, fobs and rally points can be compromised and enemies can be in the area, so don't think you're 100% safe just because you've spawned on one of these. These are effectively spawn points that are out in the open and in the combat zone, so be aware that the second you spawn in, you may be facing some action, so always be ready. Never think that these things are comfort zones, they're simply deployment points closer to the action. As you can see here, a rally point has a 60-second timer, so when you die, you'll have to wait 60 seconds, including the time you're down for, to spawn on a rally point. There are 9 of them available, and it's worth communicating to your squad lead how many spawns are left on a rally point, because if it starts depleting and the squad leader goes down, he has to spawn on the rally point again to place a new one. The last thing you want is for somebody to use the last spawn on a rally point and the squad leader is then stuck for a deployment point when you're in a combat zone, because that simply means the rest of you will not be able to spawn. Alongside that, we have forward operating bases, which are effectively reinforced rally points. Forward operating bases are things that are placed out in the open in the combat zone, either directly near objectives or sort of adjacent to them. And the idea behind these is that they act as almost main bases away from the main base. There is a 45-second deployment timer on them, and they allow you to do things like build stuff like emplacements, sandbags, guns, mortars, stuff like that. Like I say, they're a base away from the base. And alongside that, they're more reinforced spawns. They're something that everybody can spawn on. Rally points you can only spawn on if you're in the squad where the rally point has been placed. So if squad leader 1 places a rally point, only squad 1 can spawn on them. Whereas a forward operating base can be spawned on by absolutely anybody in the team at all. The forward operating base is broken down into 2 segments. As you can see here, there is the castle, which indicates where the radio has been placed, and then there is the little bunker, and that is the hab. The hab is what you spawn on, the radio is what sustains the bunker for you to spawn on. So you have to protect both the radio and the hab in order for the deployment point to work. Like I say, these will be in combat zones, and they can effectively be invaded. One of the most key and crucial tactics in squad is destroying rally points, fobs, and habs to stop people deploying, which is why you'll see regularly, alongside fighting between objectives, teams will fight to destroy each other's habs and take out deployment points, because that will give them a foothold on the entire region because nobody is spawning there. So again, this is effectively just a reinforced rally point with the ability to build. There'll be supply points at these habs and fobs, and this is something that I will go over in the building segment, which is available on screen now as part of this guide. If you want to learn about supply points and stuff like that at habs and fobs, that's where you need to go. But we're going to continue with the fundamentals here, and the last thing really about the map is that you can see stuff like ammo supply points here. We've got repair stations here, which is indicated by the little wrenches. You have the different types of vehicles, and you have emplacements, and you have all of your deployments / flags / etc, etc. And the last thing is, of course, the players. If you are a squad leader, you will have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 on your indicator, so you'll be a blip with one of those numbers. If you're just a player who's part of a squad, you will be that color of the squad. So if I'm in squad 1, we are all green. All of my teammates in that squad will be green, everybody else will be blue. A bit like Battlefield again in that sense. But people who are blue, their squad leaders will also be blue, but you can tell what squad they're in if you were to highlight them or highlight over them. And it's a good thing to know where other squad leaders are. It lets you know what squads are doing what, who's attacking where, and it gives you a good indication of how the map is being laid out and what plays are going down. So, we're going to spawn on in here with our... Actually, I'm going to go to a squad lead class just in case I need to build anything. And yeah, we're just going to spawn on in, and we're going to show you everything around, really. So, it's very basic in terms of squad. I'm going to give you an idea of the HUD in a second, but in terms of movement, it's WASD. Crouch is, you know, X and Z, or Control and Z even. I personally actually bind my crouch and prone to mouse buttons that are on the side of my mouse because I feel it allows me to move a bit more swiftly between stances. And Q and E allows you to lean in either direction. This also applies when you're aiming down sight, which is of course a right mouse click. So you can lean, crouch, and prone. You can even lean and aim / prone. It's a very complex system. It's a bit like Rainbow Six Siege in that sense. You can change stances, you can change leaning orientation, and it's very simple to do that. If you press E once, you will go into that lean. If you press E again, you will be centralized. If you press E then Q, you will swap sides. It's pretty basic, a bit like Rainbow Six Siege, and you can do this in all stances. Another useful key to know is the Alt key, and this is simply free look. So obviously, when you're walking around, it's useful to be able to free look, have a look around in your sort of ideas and surroundings. If you're finding yourself posted up and you know your front's clear, looking around the back of you and the sides can never hurt. Just being tactically aware at all points is a pretty basic fundamental to movement, and free look is something you should definitely use a lot. Now, obviously, we've got jump on spacebar. And another thing to note with movement as well, alongside sprinting, which is shift, is that there is a vaulting system available in squad now. You can actually vault over objects. So if I'm going to go over to these sandbags here, I can literally vault them by doing that. I can also tap space and sort of like fast jump over them, but the vaulting system's a lot more privy to have. I believe you can more or less transition in and out of vaults much more seamlessly than a quick jump. So yeah, that's something worth knowing. Taller objects as well, like this, can also be vaulted over. So if you find yourself near a wall or something that's a bit higher up, you can climb over it. but of course you will have no idea what's on the other side unless it's been cleared out by teammates. So we're going to take a quick look at the HUD now. So at the bottom right, the first thing to notice is the stance indicator, and this will let you know whether you're crouching, prone, or standing. And believe me, this is actually surprisingly useful, because sometimes when you're on terrain which is sloped, it's actually quite difficult to tell what stance you're in, whether you're high up or low down. So that's something worth knowing. Alongside that, to the right of that, we have a stamina bar, and this is something that goes down based on how long you're sprinting for. As you can see, the more I'm sprinting here, the further down it goes. If I jump, it also goes down. And yeah, that's something worth noting as well. Jumping actually takes a lot of stamina. In order to regain stamina, you must simply stay still, crouching or prone. You also recharge it much slower if you walk, which is simply W, rather than sprinting. So steadily, your stamina will regenerate by doing that. But if you want a quick recharge, it's simply crouching down or proning. That will significantly increase how much stamina you have left. Alongside that, we have the zeroing range on your gun, which is something I'll go into a little bit later, your magazine count, and of course we have the firing mode. So if you see at the moment there's a bullet with a 1, if I click into the middle mouse button, which is the universal key for switching fire mode, I can go to 3-round burst, or I can go to 1-round burst. So that's something worth knowing. Now, as I fired there, you can see that one of my magazines has gone yellow, and that actually indicates how much ammunition I have. And by pressing reload, that mag will be swapped out. So I will now have a white bar there, and that semi-empty magazine has been pushed right to the back, and you can see that that's still orange. Now, alongside that, we have the compass. This is also available at the bottom of your screen here. This will be your primary method for calling out where contacts are. And it's worth going over how we're going to do this, because this is something that gets very confusing very quickly for new players. Now, the compass is, of course, very simple. South, southeast, east, northeast, north, etc., etc. So if I were to look at maybe, let's say that watchtower there, I'd say that's west, 270 degrees. If I were to look at these guys over here, that would be southeast. If I were to look at these guys here, 110 degrees. Now, something that's worth noting that a lot of players that are new get wrong is that the compass positions aren't, of course, universal for everybody. Now, to give you an example of what I'm talking about here, let's say that I'm standing in Charlie 2, or Charlie 3, actually. If I'm standing in Charlie 3, which is somewhere along the lines of down here, and I say to a guy who's standing up in Bravo 2 that there are contacts southeast, his southeast and my southeast might be in the same direction, but we're going to be looking at very different things. Now, this is also something that applies if you've got people who are in multiple different locations, or if you've got people who are scattered around the map. If I've got somebody in Alpha 1, somebody in Delta 3, I'm all the way down here in Alpha 5, my teammate's up in Bravo 3, obviously, it's very rare for teammates to be scattered like this, but if I say that there are contacts to my east, then obviously all of these people scattered around the map are going to be looking east. Now, I might be talking about Bravo 5 over here, but in actuality, that's where my contacts are if I'm in Alpha 5 and I'm looking east, but everybody else is going to be looking at entirely different segments of the map. So if you're split up, using compass coordinates to indicate where people are isn't necessarily useful. Using your map to call out Bravo 1, keypad 2, sub-keypad 3 is a much better indication of where enemies are for people who are spread out across the map. Of course, if you're grouped up together and you're in the same location as one another, then that's something that will be useful for your compass then. Then you can call out compass directions. Most people will travel in squads together, so feel free to use your compass. It's as simple as saying, hey, look, guys, contacts 150, 25 meters away. Or contacts south, 150 meters away. Or enemy vehicle, 216, 100 meters away. Of course, you're not going to have a great range on distance just yet. You're just starting out in the game. Something that's 10 meters away might seem like 20 meters away. Something that's 100 meters away might feel like 200. But eventually you'll get the grasp of distance. It's just a learning curve that you'll have to get used to. But eventually, the way this fluidly works between the map and compass system is if I'm standing, let's say, over here by this little light machine gun emplacement here, and I see a vehicle, I could say, guys, enemy APC, or enemy vehicle, if I'm not entirely sure on the type, 165, 150 meters away, approximately. Now, obviously, people might not be able to approximate ranges at this point, that's fine, but just giving a rough indication to squad mates that are around you of where enemy danger is incredibly important. And the biggest thing I can say to new players is always call out your contacts before you fire at them, before you engage them. Make sure you know that everybody knows what the situation is, because that's one of the biggest downfalls in squad where people don't do that. So yeah, that's your map and compass system, and that's your UI. I was talking about zeroing ranges as well. If you hold X on your keyboard and then you scroll, you can see that you can change the zeroing range on your weapon. This is something I'm going to go over in the combat video, but effectively, zeroing just means that where my indicator is where it's going to be firing on based on approximate ranges. So we know that this is about 100 meters away. It's naturally 0 to 200 meters, so if I wanted to fire at something that was 600 meters away, I would zero it to 600 for it to hit the reticle. But that's not that important at the moment, that's just something worth mentioning. If you want a full combat video, there's something on screen now, and that's where you're going to be looking at that. But yeah, that's the basic UI, that's your map and compass. And yeah, we're just going to go over some other stuff as well. You can, of course, crouch and sprint. That is an option available to you. It keeps your head low whilst moving fast. Prone sprint is also a thing. And leaning, of course, whilst prone is also a thing, etc., as we went over before. Pressing N will bring up your map. Pressing N will zoom in the map. Pressing Enter will bring up your main menu if you're feeling the need to scroll around your map or provide some intel that is perhaps a bit more intricate, such as sub-keypads. And other than that, we're going to go over some basic deployment points. So we've got the rally leader, rally point, which is placed by your squad lead, which looks like these little sandbags here. We've got the forward operating base here, which is the little radio here. And we have the hab, which is what you'll deploy in, which is a reinforced rally point effectively. And then we've got other stuff here, like these emplacements for ammunition. By pressing F, you can interact with it. And that will allow you to resupply, change class, etc., etc. Another thing worth mentioning as well is obviously the reload key, which is R. The reload key is also something I'd strongly recommend not being too privy with. Reloads take a while in squad, so if you find yourself in an engagement, don't reload too quickly. But again, that's something that I'll go over in the contact videos and the engagement videos, so if you want to learn a bit more about combat, like I said, head there. We also have other emplacements. Everything in this game is F to interact, so if you ever want to use one of these bad boys, just press on those. We're actually going to be looking at these in the building video, but effectively, they just are what they are. You press F to use them, you press R to reload them like any other weapon. And yeah, the only other thing we really have to go over now is the communication keys. And this is obviously an important one because communication is effectively the cornerstone to squad. Now, squad is broken down into very simple keys. We have V for local chat. You can see by the blue little symbol in the bottom left. So that will allow you to talk to people in your proximity. It has a range of, I believe, up to about 30 meters. B will speak to everybody in your squad regardless of distance, and if you are the squad leader, you have G, and only squad leaders can use this, and it allows you to talk to other squad leaders to relay plans and other important information. It's worth relaying stuff to your squad leader on the B key and other squad members when they're far away. Try to stick to proximity chat to keep the squad chat as clear as possible, and only relay important information. It can get really clusterfucky. If you're a squad leader and you're communicating with other squad leaders, you're communicating with your own squad and proximity chat, it can get a bit mind-melty when there's that many things going on. So stick to proximity if you can, then squad for important information, and of course G if you're a squad leader. Now, another thing I want to mention as well about communication is that as being one of the most sort of necessary parts of squad, it's very important that you use these keys wisely. Don't run around spamming B all the time. If you've got information that can wait, it can wait. If you've got important information like contacts, that's when you should be using the keys. But yeah, like I say, just keeping the comms clear is an important thing. Of course, squad is a friendly community. You can joke around, have a laugh with your guys at the start of the game. But when shit gets heated, it's really important to keep concise and clear with everything that's going on. Another thing worth mentioning as well as we go through the fundamentals is scrolling through the different things you have in your arsenal. You can use the mouse scroll key and the click button to switch to things. You can also use, as you can see on the numbers here, number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, depending on what you're using. And yeah, it's as simple as that, effectively. One thing I want to mention as well, which is pretty important actually, if you are a basic rifleman role, which I'm going to pull out now, the basic rifleman comes equipped with a shovel on key 6, and this is going to be important for building things and unbuilding things. Building things is the left click, unbuilding things is the right click, and you'll see little pylons in the ground for when you should build things, and enemy emplacements, you simply walk up to them and right click them, and then they should eventually, slowly but surely, become unbuilt, as you can see here by these sandbags that have just steadily gone down. And of course you can build them up again by pressing left click. As you can see, these are the little pylon things I was talking about. But yeah, effectively, other than that, I can't really think of anything else for the fundamentals. We have the map, we've got the deployment points. I guess I can give you a little note here on the game modes. Game modes operate very basically. It's mostly just capture flags, it's attack, defend kind of stuff. You'll know where you're attacking, your squad leaders will tell you. And yeah, it's effectively as simple as that. You'll be told what flags to go to, etc, etc. So I think there's more or less everything I can go over here in fundamentals. Feel free to hit me up in the comments section below if you have any other questions. I will answer them. We're going to head on over now to a combat-based video, which is part 2. And yeah, just keep scrolling through, guys. We have class specializations, we have squad leading, we have building, etc, etc. Like I say, if you feel like I've missed anything, let me know in the comment section down below and I will address it. But other than that, that's more or less it. Remember, communication is key, so that's V, B, and G, as you can see by the little radio symbols. Your map and compass are everything. Leaning and free looking is important. Pressing F more or less does everything from getting into vehicles to using one of these bad boys, and you can vault, which is a nice little feature of V10. Congratulations, V10. And yeah, we're going to head on over to a combat video now, and I'm going to be talking about more advanced combat, intricate sort of stuff. But that's about it. As always, guys, thank you for watching. I hope you check out the rest of the guide, which is available hopefully on screen or in a playlist somewhere around about now. Otherwise, YouTube, plus, let me do this correctly. Yeah, just drop me a subscribe and hit me up in the comment section with questions. As always, like I said, it's been me, TheTacticalBrit. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you again soon in another video.